Colorado Buffaloes have their fall camp going on right now. Not a lot of talk about their head coach in a while. And, usually when he doesn't have a lot of discussion around him in the news, he's got to have a little of attention and bring something up to the media for us to discuss about Deion Sanders and what he did. And for those who don't know what we're referring to, he had a press conference yesterday, and there was a CBS Sports reporter there, local guy from Denver, who wanted to ask him a question, and he refused to ask him a question, and he basically said, I respect you as a man. I love you. I love having you here for press conferences, but what CBS Sports did and put out, I'm against, and I will not be answering any questions from CBS Sports. CBS Sports earlier this week came out with an article ranking the Big 12 coaches and had Deion as second to worst, which, to be honest, it's not a terrible ranking because they finished last year they finished last place in the Pac-12 last year, and it's so funny to me because guys like Deion and guys in college, and Ben, when you're in college football, you're taught to block out the noise and not address things out in the public of rankings or what reporters say and about the media, and you're supposed to say, we don't look at it. We don't pay attention to it. We focus on what's going on interior and what we have going on here. And it's a lot of crap because we're all on social media all the time, and we always look at everything on social media people look at. But for Deion Sanders to go out there, and you'll give your take in a second too, and kind of call out a reporter that did not have anything to do with the article. Him being a local guy, just wanting to be a media member. We all have jobs, and his job is to show up to the press conference and get information about practice and about certain things that he's writing on. Just like Deion Sanders has a job out there making millions of dollars a year to coach football and have all this attention for Colorado football. But to do that and to embarrass a reporter, and I'm sure he was embarrassed and probably startled. I felt bad for him. And again, another situation where Deion Sanders trolling a reporter and being the limelight and being having all this attention, and just not a good look for him and now his program.
Yeah, so I put out something earlier this week on YouTube, my show, Ben Garcia Show, and it's one of my higher rated videos, not for a good reason. It actually got a lot of negative pushback, almost 200 comments, because I outlined the Deion Sanders story of basically the locker room being a debacle. The locker room being toxic, players bullying each other, players slapping each other. And then I got a bunch of people in my comment section, you've never been a part of a college football locker room. No, you're right. I never played college football. Here's what I will say, though. Okay, we're just going to be okay with the fact that the locker room was toxic. Because there's other locker rooms like that. Our locker room's toxic, and that's okay. And I'm the sensitive one for pointing it out. All right, that's fine. So Deion Sanders, once someone doesn't say he's the greatest coach in the world, he gets sensitive and won't even take reports from them. This is the problem with Deion Sanders. Let me just put this out there. I think it's great for college football for Deion Sanders to succeed. I want Deion Sanders to succeed. He's interesting, and to be honest, he's got a great personality, and he's just fun, right? He's primetime, baby. Like, that's what people like about Deion Sanders. But I'm not going to lie to you just to massage your ego. Is Deion Sanders only taking questions from people that are still writing about how great he was as a cornerback? The issue with Deion Sanders and the issue with Colorado football is, in the words of Dan Lanning, they are too set on getting clicks instead of fighting for wins. They had 4 wins last year. Granted, an improvement, and I'll agree with you, an improvement.
More than expected.
Right. I mean, what are you going to say, right? 4 wins, that's good. But we're not going to massage your ego and make it seem like you turned around this program Jim Harbaugh style and won 9 games. Deion Sanders is still acting like he did as a cornerback, which worked well because he was a cornerback. You are graded harshly when you're a quarterback, which is why I'm just out on Shedeur Sanders, who's too into himself, and I just grade you differently when you're a head coach. And when you still put on the same shtick, that is how everyone else is going to emulate. Everyone is going to mimic the head coach or the parent in this aspect. And Deion Sanders has been a debacle. He's been a distraction. And I'm not just going to say that you've been awesome because your ego demands it. And I'm sorry that someone asked you a question at your bleeping press conference. Am I insane? Am I being too harsh?
No, you're spot on, and I think for programs, they go as the head coach goes. And there's that article that came out on Athlon that you're referring to with certain things that are actually involving players whose dads are coaches on the staff. And when I was at Montana too, the head coach, his son was there, and it's a real thing. When your dad's the head coach, you're not going to get kicked off the team. You can do whatever you want. You're not going to get kicked off, or you're not going to kicked off a starting job. And there are certain players, and Shiloh Sanders, you can say what you want to say about him. He's a talented player. He deserves to be the starting safety. That's not what I'm saying. But there's other situations where there's players that don't even deserve to be on the team that take advantage of other players. And if you're that player, you can't go out and say what's going on to Deion Sanders because you fear for your life, you fear for your spot. There's certain jobs that people have out there where they're not fortunate that their parents the boss of, and you can't say certain things about the kid because you're afraid for your own job and not having a job to provide for your own family. So I think it's all in all a toxic situation. I think part of that too is having too many transfer portal guys in and out every single year. You can't really establish a culture. You got to establish a culture first and foremost, and a locker room that's not toxic if you want to translate it over to wins.
Let me just ask you this. You were in a locker room. You played in Montana. I mean, yeah, sure, you weren't Travis Hunter, but did you ever witness this kind of debacle handling in a locker room? I get that there's hazing and there's some bullying. Were people slapping each other and fearing for their life because Shiloh Sanders was the god of all players and you couldn't say anything? Was that what happened?
No.
Oh, that's strange. That's strange because everyone told me that that's what happens in a locker room. Everyone just, hey, I played high school football, and yeah, there were idiots on the team. It's high school. I'm not going to compare that to Division I football. So you're telling me that that's toxic locker rooms aren't a thing?
Well, I mean, toxic locker rooms are a thing, but it's the coach and the leaders you have on your team.
Interesting.
That how long, like all the fights that happen and all the beefs, I guess you could say, that happened during fall camp, it would only last that one day, and leaders on the team, coaches on the team would make sure that didn't last outside of practice or outside of the locker room and would carry on longer days. Men are one thing. Women, when it comes to sports and stuff, drama and stuff like that, will carry out longer. For guys, it's like you get in a fight, next day, hey, what's up, bro? Good to see you. In good organizations and good programs. But for what I'm seeing with Colorado, like a GTA-style locker room from what Athlon anonymous players are saying, it's ridiculous. And if you actually think that you're going to translate to wins in Colorado this season, trying to make a bowl game and have 6 wins when you go at Nebraska, you got NDSU, you want to talk about culture? North Dakota State week 1 is going to come in there with a lot of culture, and they're going to run it down your throat if you can't be able to stop the run like you were not able to last year. And then you got a grueling back end of the schedule at Arizona, Utah at home, at Kansas, and then you got home against Oklahoma State. Those are a lot of programs and a lot of head coaches that are ranked a lot higher than you, Deion, that have been around those programs that have the culture that translates to wins.
Yeah, so the Deion Sanders thing, it just gets frustrating, right? Because he's supposed to be Deion Sanders. You can't touch him with a 10-foot pole. That's how great he is. But here's the issue. You're telling me your ego is so fragile. Someone ranks you low on a coaching list. You're like, I'm not taking questions from them. Are the only people you will talk to are the people that will massage your egos. There are so many things with Colorado football that I'm so irritated with. Whether it's the social media handles on the back of jerseys, in which people have told me, oh, that's NIL, you're promoting yourself. You can promote yourself off of the practice field.
It's cringy.
It's weird, right? Changing the captain logo to leaders and dogs is stupid. Like, it's just stupid. Call it what it is. That's the cringiest, dumbest, 60-year-old mentality that I feel like you could have. Colorado football, let me just say this again. I think you are too. We are rooting for them to succeed because it is so good for college football. All we're saying is run a program like this and you won't succeed. We've seen it before. And the way the cornerback primetime Deion Sanders mentality, it won't work, and I can guarantee it.
Yeah, a lot of those changes being flashy, too. At the top of the Big 12 rankings, real quick, and we'll head to break. Kyle Whittingham from Utah at 1. Lance Leopold from Kansas at 2. Kansas State's Chris Kleiman at 3. Mike Gundy at 4. Arizona's Brent Brennan was 13. Deion 15. And Kenny Dillingham at 16. Something to note there.